Okay. How many people in here have ever dealt with an irate parent? Okay. Yeah, just about everybody. Okay. And there's an uncomfortability. I mean, I shared it with you when we were discussing things in the other room about how I moved into administration and I could not stand the fact that I was going to have to deal with parents who were just out of control. And it's almost as if I had to relive the imprint that I got from childhood, which we talked about earlier as well. And the imprint was, I didn't like my parents when they reacted to me. It was too difficult for me to deal with. You know, listening to my father yell at me or my mother yell, you know, it's almost as if I'd rather say, give me the spanking and get it over with, but stop it, because sometimes that yelling became passive-aggressive as well, where they wouldn't even talk to you, and that's when the silence is absolutely deafening. So we never liked the reaction from our parents, and the one thing that we have to overcome in dealing with parents is the fear of being yelled at. The fear of being yelled at. That's the one thing that I had to learn. It was so difficult for me to quite understand it, but once I got to the point of complete understanding that I don't like being yelled at. Because sometimes parents can come into your office or into your classroom and they can make you feel like a 3-year-old. And you can almost feel like your feet getting cold knowing just who the parent is. You've dealt with them before, and I've shared information that when I used to get discipline referrals on kids, the first thing I used to ask myself when I looked at the referral was, who is the parent? Who's the parent that I'm going to have to deal with, because they're going to be tougher for me to deal with than the kid that I got sitting in front of me. And I always had to be careful that I didn't soft pedal on a kid, I mean go too easy on them, because I was afraid of that parent. And I know that that's stuff that probably does go on. We may have done it, or you may have seen it being done. Now, there are 2 times when a parent will come in unannounced. 2 times. In the very beginning of the day or at the very end of the day. That's when you're getting blindsided by a parent who's unhappy with something that you did at the end of the day. At the end of the school day. Now, if you live in a community school where everybody kind of walks to school and everything else, what'll happen is that parent might be home or might get called by their kid at work, and the kid will explain to them exactly what happened in school. Maybe you were rude to him, maybe you picked on him, maybe you gave his test score out to other kids and embarrassed them, maybe you embarrassed him in front of the class. Who knows what it is? But if you're in a community school where they walk, the parent will visit you before the end of the day. If you happen to be in a regional school where the kids are bussed in, that parent will probably show up the next morning. And when they come in unannounced to visit you, rest assured they're not there because they're happy. And we have to learn how to deal with irate parents. Parents have been put in a position where they've matured physically but not emotionally. And this is what we're dealing with right now. Moving forward, okay, we have parents, anytime a parent is coming in and arguing with you and not supporting you as the authority figure in that classroom, because you have to remember that parent, when they send them to school, also shift the authority to you and are allowing you to make decisions in behalf of their kid in their stead, because they're not there to make them. But when they argue with you and when they fight with you because of something that you did to their kid, it becomes almost as bad as a bad marriage where a husband and a wife don't agree. So what we have to do is we have to figure out how to deal with irate parents when they come into our classroom, our office, or wherever they come. Now, I'm going to do a demonstration here. Would you come up here, Ellen?
Sure.
Okay, and we're just going to take 2 chairs. Right here. Okay, and we're going to say, for argument's sake, that Ellen decided as the parent. Now, you don't have to say a lot because it's more what I'm going to show you in terms of the physical relationship, in terms of rapport that we're going to develop. Ellen is upset with me and has come in early in the morning. Now, I'm at my, and I want to say this as well. I don't know where they come from, but there's many times that I've been opening my door to my classroom and there's nobody around me, and the minute I open the door, somebody appears. It's like you materialized right in front of me. And I don't know how that happens. I really don't. It's like, did they jump out from behind a wall or behind a bush or whatever is there, but all of a sudden they're there. So I'm opening this door, okay, and as I'm opening the door, you appear. So you just jump in. Here she is.
Mr. Burns, I'm upset.
This is Mrs. Nasty Pants. She has come in to visit me because she's upset with me about something that I did to her child. These meetings, when you don't know what they're about or what the problem is and they just appear at your door and everything else, you want to figure out a way to reschedule them or get to a point in the conversation where you could say, can you come back in a little bit later and you and I will talk, and maybe at that point you'll have a little bit more information and you'll be able to bring an administrator in to help you out. Or I go to the secretary, if she's there, and say, page me in 15 minutes. Because I want to get out of the room. I don't want, if it's going to go bad. We don't know if it's going to go bad or not. Now, I come back into the room, and this is important. I sit down, and I size up the way she's sitting. How she is sitting is important to me because I am going to match that body posture. I'm going to sit the way she's sitting, which is like this. Now, here's a few things I want you to understand. If I came into the room and you were in your most defensive posture ever, like this, see this is, all I have to worry about here is this, crossed limb, crossed limb. I can sit just the way she's sitting and mirror her, okay, by crossing my feet and crossing my arms. Same limbs, both of them crossed, but not in that defensive posture. So I can continue to have the conversation without giving her one of these. I can have it in a more relaxed way. Now, if you want to stay that way, fine. If not, you can go back. Now, I ask one question. Okay, I only ask just one question. Say, okay, what's on your mind and what's the problem? Okay, and you can share anything with me that you like.
And I can tell you I'm very upset about that terrible thing you did to my perfect child yesterday.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You should not have done that.
I should not have done.
It's inappropriate, and you need to apologize to my child.
And you know what? I'm not sure what I said, but if you share that with me, I'm sure that I'll recall it. What did I say?
Well, you pointed out the mistake that he made on his test in front of the whole class, and he's really embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure his friends will be making fun of him today because they'll think he's stupid, because everybody knows that he made this mistake.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I'm going to do my best to work on that, you know, and see if I could talk with them about it. We're not that concerned with the conversation, because if she was really irate and really upset, okay, I wouldn't be able to do much more than just listen. She's looking for me to apologize to her son, right? I need to meet you at your intensity level, because you're probably going to be far more intense than you are right now. Meeting someone at their intensity level doesn't mean that I argue with them. All it means is I make your problem my problem, so we see the problem from the same perspective. So if you said to me, I want you to apologize to my son, my reaction to that should be, oh man, what did I say? You know, I just so, you make it them believe that you reacted and you're going to deal with it. Why? Because you don't want her here that long. You may need another meeting, but you're trying to move this parent out, and the problem may not get resolved if you're as irate as I think you're going to be. Now, go into your other position for a minute, okay, and let's just say I'm matched up with you pretty well. Okay, about maybe 7 or 8 minutes into this conversation, need to take control of the meeting at some point. Let's just say you are wild, and I need to take control of this conversation. I go through a large muscle movement. I change my body position. I just change the way I'm seated. Now change with me. If she changes with me, then I can talk. But if I try to talk while you're talking, okay, you're gonna accuse me of arguing, okay, and just being rude and discourteous. Our goal here is to listen as much as possible. The difficulty comes in when they start accusing us of stuff and we become defensive. Then we start fighting with them. Rather than do that, just listen to them. Just listen. And when you go through the same body movement that I went through, now I can speak to you. Now go back to the way you were just for a minute.
Angry.
Okay? Right. Now, if you don't move, I got to go back to the same position again. Do that? Now, let's just say I move now. Now move with me. And now, okay, now I can speak to you. You always have to be in physical rapport. You get physical rapport before you get verbal rapport. It's much easier to develop. And when you look around in your classrooms, when you're teaching or when you're in the classroom as a student, look around at some of the other students in the room when you get a chance. And you'll discover the ones that have been sitting together for 2 weekends in a row, you know, and so on. Usually, whether they're sitting together or not at that particular point, okay, usually you're in physical rapport. Freeze for a second. You two ladies have been sitting together the whole time and you both had your hands on your face, and you weren't even sitting together at this point. Okay, both of you were sitting with your hand on your face because you've already established physical rapport. See? And that's the interesting thing about it. If you develop that, you're going to be fine. Now, the next trick here is for you to answer a question for me. And the question that I'm going to ask you is, what would you like to have happen? You've just shared with me, I've been rude, discourteous, I upset your kid, the whole bit. So I did a great listening job. Now I say to you, what would you like to have happen? So tell me what you want to have happen.
I would like you to apologize to my son today in front of the whole class.
I'm going to speak to your son today in front of the whole class, and we're going to see what went on, and we're going to take care of it. Is that okay with you?
It is. I will check with him tonight, though, to make sure that that happens.
You can, that's fine. But are you okay with that?
I am.
Okay, now that is the name of a book. The name of the book is Getting to Yes. You want to get to yes. The minute you get yes from anybody for anything, the minute you hear yes, you end the conversation. Now, she just said she's okay with it, but I want you to understand something. Did I say I was going to apologize? No. I agreed in principle, but not in content. That's the objective here. Maybe I'm not going to apologize. She wants an apology. I'm going to talk to your son today, and we're going to see what we could do about this because I want to take care of it. Did I say I was going to apologize? No. Is that okay with you, what you told me before? It was. But maybe I'm not going to do it. And then she'll check with him later, and by that time, what'll happen? If she wants to come back in, I already got an administrator that's going to help me out, or somebody else. The minute I get to yes, I extend my hand, stand up, like so, say, it was good talking to you, and I lead her out the door. I walk her out the door. Because I don't want her around anymore. Thank you, Ellen, very much. We don't want her in there anymore. When people are sitting, if you watch them, okay, if you have a parent that comes into your office, if you want to check on fear, okay, in the parent, if they're afraid, they will always be sitting like this. You know why? Because their feet are pointing toward the door. They want to get out. And oftentimes when a parent comes in and you sit them down just for a minute, you do something in their head that's known as a pattern interrupt. You're interrupting their pattern of thinking. They come in angry. You got to interrupt that pattern. That's why you let them come in and sit down as well, just for a few minutes. Once you interrupt that, and it gets interrupted in a lot of ways, not just by sitting there. The copy machine could be going off. There could be kids in the hallway. There could be birds tweeting outside. All of these sounds get into the person's head and they start to lose the anger that they once had. See, and that's where it's kind of like your teeth not hurting when you get into the dentist chair. You get in the dentist chair, it's like, it's not bothering me quite as much when he's coming at you with the drill. When I'm coming at you now, and when you've put yourself in this position, you're starting to wonder, what am I going to do here now? Should I start hollering, or what? How should I handle this? You see what happens? You have to work on the head of the person that's there, only to be sure to give them the answer that they want and to protect yourself. And if a parent ever gets out of control with you, your response can be to them, I'm sorry, I'm not used to being spoken to this way. You'll either calm down or we'll have to have this meeting at another time. That's it. No one deserves to be abused. No one. That's where we have to be when we're dealing with irate parents. Now, I'm going to spend the next few minutes just explaining to you how to handle normal parent conferences. And normal parent conferences are set up from time to time and not timed enough. In other words, you have 8 or 10 minutes or so on, and sometimes you could have a normal parent conference and they're not timed at all. If they're not timed at all, make sure that you just take a sheet of paper and put it on your door, and it might say knock after 8 minutes or knock after 10 minutes, so that the other parent who's waiting to come in and see you will knock on the door, and that other parent will have to get out. Some parents will try to monopolize your entire night, and that's not what you're there for. You're there to see a lot of parents when you're dealing with a structured parent conference. Always remember the same principles that I just taught you in terms of rapport, okay, the way you're seated, and so on. When you are dealing with a parent in your classroom, and it's a good meeting, okay, you want to make sure you introduce their son or their daughter. And the way you do it is by creating a 3-point meeting. And this is done in sales all the time. Like someone's going to give you, at a sales meeting, they're going to say to you, you guys are doing great, the sales are up, everybody's out there working hard, but we still need to talk about this, and they point to something else. When you're dealing with a parent whose child may have some academic difficulty, you could say, he's doing great, he's working hard, we're thrilled, but we need to talk about this. And you'll point down at your grade book, or you'll point down at some work samples, or whatever the case may be. When you do that, you've introduced the child to the meeting. And that's who you want to have there. Because it's not between you and the parent, it's between you, the child, and the parent. When I used to handle discipline referrals, I would hold them out here. I'd say, is that your name on that thing? And the kid would say, yeah. I says, I didn't write it. I didn't send it here. I didn't have anything to do with it. I said, this is between you, that referral, and the teacher. But it's given to me to discipline you, and if what's on that referral is really the truth, we got a lot of problems here that we have to deal with. So you always introduce the child. Once you get to the point where you are going to, the meeting is coming to a close, teachers have a tendency to make a couple of mistakes at the close of a meeting. Okay, number one of the things that they do is they start to raise or bring up conversation about information that has nothing to do with the kid. Let me illustrate. It looks like snow. That's just like a comment that a teacher could make when a parent looks like snow outside. Maybe we'll have tomorrow off. And that's a parent. You said it to a parent. Okay. The next month or two goes by, and you guys are up for negotiations in terms of your teaching contract. And one of the parents who's involved in the community says, what are going to give them more money? They all want a day off. We're looking for snow. It gets brought up. Great looking earrings. I like your brooch. All these things start to get brought up. You do not have to have a personal relationship with some parents. You could have a very professional relationship when you're talking about you and your relationship with their kid, but you don't need a personal relationship with certain parents. It's nice to have conversation with them, but I will tell you, when we talked about it earlier in the classroom, there is a motive behind having a personal relationship. And you will always refer to yourself as Mr., Mrs., or Ms. I've heard too many teachers call up and say, "Hi, I'm Jim Burns. I want to talk to Mrs. So." No, I'm Mr. Burns. I don't walk into my cardiologist's office and call him by his first name. He's doctor. We deserve the same respect, and that's exactly what I'm trying to help you understand. We cannot become and get to a personal level with parents, because it will backfire on us at some point. It will backfire. And once it backfires, hey, we're not going to have any recourse, because did we say, hey, I think it's going to snow tonight? I hope it snows. You know, some people might even, hey, well, how big is your Thanksgiving turkey? Because sometimes these meetings are around Thanksgiving. Well, maybe they don't have a turkey. You know, you ready for Christmas? Boy, it's going to be great to get time off. I had one poor teacher years ago. She said to a parent at a parent conferences when they were all over with, "I can't wait to go home and have a couple of glasses of wine." And she said to me, "Was that okay to say that?" I said, "If things go south between you and that parent, you could end up being called an alcoholic. Yeah, things could go wrong." Always keep it professional. Always keep it professional. The more professional we are, okay, the more we're going to be respected. I don't need my cardiologist to come to me and say, "Hi, Jim, how you doing? Let's go out." You know, you don't need to do that with anybody either. Okay? So there you have it, dealing with irate parents and dealing with basic parent conferences.